You can spend years thinking you know someone, only to realize you never even scratched the surface. That's how I felt about my wife, Amanda. For 12 years, we had what I thought was a solid marriage. I worked in IT security, Amanda taught early childhood development, and we had a 10-year-old son, Lucas, who had recently started seeing a therapist due to anxiety and mild behavioral issues. Pretty typical stuff in today's world. At least that's what I believed. It started with a phone call. Lucas had been seeing Dr. Miles Hargrove, a licensed child psychologist with glowing reviews and a waiting list months long. He seemed kind, attentive, and surprisingly relatable to Lucas, so I wasn't thrilled about how quickly Amanda had found him, especially given how exclusive his clinic was, but I didn't question it too much. One day, Amanda called me while I was at work. "He said Lucas might be on the spectrum," she whispered. I froze. "Miles said that?" "Yes, but it's not conclusive yet. He needs more sessions to be sure. Don't panic, Nathan." I tried not to, but my mind spun like a carousel of worst-case scenarios. Over the next few weeks, Amanda became more controlling about the therapy process. She insisted she should be the one taking Lucas to every appointment, claimed it helped him stay consistent. I offered to take over once a week so she could rest. She refused. I noticed little changes in her behavior, too. She started locking her phone more, would take long, hushed calls in the bathroom. Her laptop, once left on the kitchen counter, now never left her side. I chalked it up to stress. Parenting a child with possible neurodivergence is no walk in the park. But then something else happened. I got a call from the school counselor, Mrs. Alvarez. She said Lucas had mentioned something odd during his session. "Your son said his mom tells him to say certain things in therapy," she told me. "What kind of things?" I asked. He said, "Mom says if I tell the doctor I feel scared at home, I'll get more time with her." I felt the floor give way under me. I confronted Amanda that night. She was doing laundry, humming like nothing had changed. "Why would Lucas say something like that?" I asked. Her face didn't even twitch. "Kids say weird things," she replied. "Did you coach him on what to say to Dr. Hargrove?" That got her attention. Her eyes snapped up, sharp and alert. "Are you accusing me of manipulating our son?" "I'm asking you," she scoffed. "Of course not. That's ridiculous." But something about the way she said it felt practiced. Over the next few days, I dug deeper. I checked Lucas's clinic bills. I noticed that several sessions were billed for longer durations than usual. Some were listed as joint parental consultations, but I was never invited. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I installed a keystroke logger on Amanda's laptop. I hated myself for it. But I needed to know, and what I found shattered everything. Emails, hundreds of them, between Amanda and Dr. Miles Hargrove, not professional emails, not about Lucas. These were intimate, flirtatious, explicit. They had been sleeping together for at least 6 months. One email chilled me more than the rest. "If Lucas's evaluation goes the way we planned, Nathan won't be able to challenge custody. He'll look unstable if he tries. Keep reinforcing the narrative. Narrative, custody." I felt the blood drain from my face. She was setting me up. I didn't sleep that night. Amanda was lying beside me, breathing softly, unaware that I had read every sordid word of her affair. I stared at the ceiling, my fists clenched beneath the sheets. I kept replaying that one line. If Lucas's evaluation goes the way we planned, they weren't just screwing each other behind my back. They were strategizing, manipulating, weaponizing our son's mental health for legal leverage. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag her out of bed and show her the emails, demand answers, make her feel the betrayal I felt. But I didn't. Why? Because for the first time in my life I realized I wasn't just dealing with infidelity. I was dealing with a conspiracy. And I needed to be smarter than both of them. The next morning I woke up early and told Amanda I'd be heading to work a little late. She barely looked up from her phone, mumbling something about packing Lucas's lunch. I drove straight to the clinic where Dr. Miles Hargrove practiced. It was a modern, clean 2-story building with calming blue accents and a fake waterfall in the lobby. A receptionist named Claire greeted me with a polite smile. "Do you have an appointment, sir?" "No," I said, "but I need to speak with Dr. Hargrove. It's urgent. I'm Lucas Hamilton's father." She hesitated, then typed something on her computer. He's with a client right now. You can wait if you'd like. I nodded and sat down. I didn't have a plan. Just fury, suspicion, and a copy of several printed emails in my pocket. 15 minutes later, Dr. Hargrove appeared at the hallway. He looked exactly how I remembered him. Late 30s, sharp suit, salt and pepper beard, charming in a way that made you trust him instantly. "Mr. Hamilton," he said with a cool smile, "what brings you in?" "I'd like to speak in private," I said tightly. He led me to his office. I scanned the room. Sleek desk, 2 chairs, shelves lined with books on developmental psychology. Too neat, too perfect. He sat across from me and folded his hands. "So, what's this about?" I pulled out the emails, dropped them on his desk. His face changed, subtly. His mouth tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "I see. That's all you have to say?" "You clearly accessed private communications," he said. "That's a serious breach of—" "Don't. You don't get to play victim here." "I'm not playing anything," he said smoothly, "but I would caution you to consider the consequences of what you're doing." "Consequences? Like having my son's mental health twisted so you and my wife can build a case for full custody?" He didn't deny it. Instead, he smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. "You really don't understand how this works, do you?" "What?" "Custody battles aren't won in courtrooms," he said. "They're won in documents, in evaluations, in credibility. Amanda and we've built a very credible narrative. You're just a man unraveling, angry, paranoid. The perfect picture of instability." I stood up, heart pounding. "You can't do this. I'll go public. I'll go to the board, the press. I'll ruin you." "I admire your spirit," he said, standing too. "But think carefully. If Lucas ends up in the middle of a scandal, the person who loses isn't E.T. Amanda. It's him." "You're threatening my son?" "I'm protecting his progress," he said, walking me to the door. "And trust me, Amanda and I aren't the only ones who believe you've been under pressure lately." I left shaking. He was right about one thing. If I lashed out now, I'd look unstable. But I had something neither of them expected. Time. And I wasn't going to waste another second. The next few days passed in a blur. I avoided Amanda when I could. Every moment near her felt like walking barefoot over broken glass. She was calm, too calm, preparing Lucas's school lunch with a humming voice, texting her co-conspirator from the bathroom, acting like the picture-perfect mother and wife. I was done playing quiet. She thought I'd stay passive. She thought I'd keep swallowing the lies. But I'd tasted the truth now. And truth, once uncovered, doesn't go back to sleep. I needed allies. I needed documentation. I needed to prepare for war. The first person I called was Mrs. Alvarez, the school counselor. She had been the first to see the cracks, the first to warn me. I asked to meet off campus, somewhere private. She agreed, albeit hesitantly. We met at a quiet cafe downtown on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. I was nervous she might pull away if I told her too much, but she surprised me. "I've always had a weird feeling about your wife," she admitted, after I recapped the situation. "Lucas is a smart kid, but sometimes his emotions didn't match his words, like he was performing." I asked if she would be willing to provide some kind of written record, an observation log, maybe even testimony should this ever reach court. She was hesitant. She worked for the school, after all, but eventually she agreed to keep a confidential log, her own personal record of Lucas' behavior patterns and any inconsistencies she observed. It wasn't legal ammunition yet, but it was a seed. Next, I called someone I never thought I'd need, a family law attorney. His name was Darren Cobb, late 40s, straight talker, former military. I chose him specifically because his bio read, "Specializes in high-conflict custody battles involving psychological manipulation." He didn't flinch when I told him the story. "She's sleeping with the therapist," I said. "Can you prove it?" I nodded. "I have emails, dozens." He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask to see them yet. "And you believe they're influencing the child's mental health reports intentionally?" "Yes. She's coaching him to say things in therapy that aren't true, things that make me look dangerous." Darren leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "If that's true, Nathan, you're not dealing with just an affair, you're dealing with psychological abuse." That word again. abuse. It tasted bitter but necessary. He explained that if I could demonstrate a pattern of manipulation, coaching, false reporting, attempts to alienate the child, I could not only fight back in court, I could potentially gain full custody. But I needed hard evidence, more than emails, more than gut feelings. Get a second opinion, he said. Take your son to an independent evaluator, not one your wife knows. Make sure it's someone with a clean record and no connection to Dr. Hargrove. So I did. I called in a favor from a college friend, and his sister was a pediatric psychiatrist. She worked out of state, but she agreed to meet with Lucas discreetly, under the pretense of a wellness check while we visited family that weekend. Amanda didn't like the idea, of course. She hated the thought of anyone stepping into her process. We can't just expose Lucas to multiple evaluations, it'll confuse him, she protested. I shrugged. It's just a second opinion, nothing major. You're not against second opinions, are you? She forced a smile. But I could see it in her eyes. She was rattled, and that told me I was on the right path. The session with the psychiatrist, Dr. Hannah Lane, was brief but enlightening. Lucas opened up to her more than I expected. When she asked him about his fears, he paused and said, "Sometimes Mum tells me to say I'm scared of Dad, but I'm not." I blinked. Dr. Lane blinked. She gently asked why he would say that. Lucas shrugged. She says it's just in case. Just in case. It echoed in my head like a scream in an empty cathedral. Dr. Lane didn't make any promises, but she said she'd write a neutral summary of her findings and flag concerns regarding suggestive influence. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was more ammo. By the end of the week, I had a confidential observation record from the school counselor, a signed statement from an independent psychiatrist, and a digital archive of intimate emails between Amanda and Hargrove. But I still didn't have the one thing I needed most, proof that Amanda intended to weaponize it all. That part I had to bait out. I knew Amanda wouldn't confess easily. People like her rarely do. When your lies become your reality, telling the truth feels like self-destruction. But I didn't need her to confess. I needed her to confirm her intent. And for that, I had a plan. It was time to bait her. I created a fake email account using a secure server and a throwaway domain. The name I used was Helen Barrett, posing as a custody litigation consultant from a fictitious law firm, Barrett Legal Mediation. I had crafted the perfect cover. I sent Amanda an email that read, "Dear Mrs. Hamilton, I understand from a mutual contact that you're preparing for a custody transition. Based on our experience, the most effective custody claims are those that demonstrate a pattern of consistent emotional behavior in the child's psychological file. If you're working with a clinical partner, e.g. a therapist or psychologist, it's imperative to maintain narrative alignment between sessions. Let me know if you'd like to discuss in more detail. Regards, Helen Barrett, Custody Strategy Advisor, Barrett Legal Mediation." I used keywords Amanda and Dr. Hargrove had used in their private emails, phrases like narrative consistency and pattern reinforcement. I made sure the domain looked just convincing enough. I even created a website landing page with a generic law office banner and fake staff photos. Then I hit send. I waited. 2 hours passed, then 3. At 5:46 p.m., Amanda replied. "Hi, Helen. Thanks for reaching out. I completely agree with the importance of consistency. His sessions have been more on-script lately. Miles is handling the phrasing during debriefs. I just nudge him beforehand, especially on the fear narrative. We've had progress aligning tone across sessions. Let's talk soon. Amanda H." I read it 5 times, then a 6th. She admitted it, in writing. She admitted to coaching Lucas before therapy sessions. She admitted to aligning the language with Dr. Hargrove. She even used the word nudge, soft, casual, manipulative. I forwarded the entire exchange to Darren, my attorney. He called me within 10 minutes. "You just handed me dynamite." We immediately set an appointment to file a preliminary injunction, a legal move to bar Amanda from unmonitored therapy access and to trigger an emergency custody hearing based on suspected psychological manipulation. But the legal gears take time, and Amanda had no idea what was coming. That night I acted like nothing had changed. I kissed Lucas goodnight. I told Amanda she looked beautiful. I even offered to do the dishes. She looked at me suspiciously, maybe confused by my sudden shift. "You're in a good mood," she said cautiously. "Maybe I just finally got some clarity," I smiled. She smiled back, the kind of smile that hides poison. I wondered if she knew just how close she was to the edge. The next morning, while she took Lucas to school, I checked the email one last time, then deleted the burner account. Darren had already begun preparing the paperwork. We'd be serving Amanda within 48 hours. But before that could happen, something unexpected occurred. I received an anonymous message on Signal. "You think you know the whole story. You don't. Check the clinic's financials." I stared at the screen. Who was this? I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. Just silence. But that message, 7 words, opened a door I didn't know existed. And what I would find behind it would change everything. The message haunted me all night. Check the clinic's financials. It wasn't just a tip. It was a directive, almost like a test. Someone out there had insight into this mess that I didn't, and for some reason, they wanted me to dig deeper, and I was ready. By 7 a.m. I was at my laptop, armed with caffeine and fury. I dove into public business databases, IRS filings, and state licensure records. Dr. Miles Hargrove S. Clinic was officially registered as Hargrove Developmental Wellness PLLC, a professional limited liability company. That was normal. But what wasn't normal? A silent partner was added to the registry just 11 months ago. Name, Hallowbridge Behavioral Ventures, Inc. I clicked on the listed address. It wasn't a clinic. It wasn't even an office building. It was a P.O. box in a strip mall, in another state. Red flag number 1. I searched Hallowbridge in corporate databases. Barely anything came up, but a few links led to business groups flagged for non-transparent financial activities and strategic data collection models. Then one name jumped out from a buried board document. Amanda Hargrove. That's right, Amanda Hargrove. Not my Amanda, but Miles Hargrove's ex-wife. Suddenly the air felt heavier. So Miles had an ex-wife still linked to the clinic's shadow partner company. That couldn't be a coincidence. Not when Amanda, my Amanda, was suddenly so close to him. It got worse. A separate database showed that Hallowbridge had received 2 large grants over the past year, one from a pharmaceutical research foundation and another from a tech company focused on AI-assisted pediatric diagnostics. The catch? Each grant required behavioral data from at least 100 pediatric cases. I leaned back, heart pounding. This wasn't just about Amanda and Miles screwing behind my back. This wasn't even about Amanda trying to win a custody battle. This was about access. Access to children, to their data, to Lucas. And Amanda, my Amanda, was a bridge between Miles' clinical access and the fake partner corporation benefiting from the extracted data. I grabbed my phone and called Darren. He listened in silence as I read him everything. "Jesus," he muttered. "They're not just manipulating your kid. They're trafficking his information." Is that even illegal? In this state, in that context? Hell yes. Especially if it's without full informed consent. And who gives consent? He paused. You do and Amanda. But if she's been doctoring the reports, you might have been signing off on manipulated documentation. That was it. That was the key. If I could prove that Amanda had knowingly signed off on sessions fabricated or steered by Miles, and that those sessions were sold, even under a research banner, without proper consent. We weren't talking about custody anymore. We were talking fraud, medical ethics violations, federal law. Darren asked me to send every screenshot, document, and discovery I had. He started drafting a notice to the state medical board and began contacting a journalist he trusted. "We need to move on 2 fronts," he said, "legal and public pressure." But I still didn't know who had sent me the signal message. Whoever it was, they had just changed the entire trajectory of this war. Later that evening, while Amanda was out shopping, I checked her desk drawer. It was unlocked. Inside were receipts, printed therapy reports, a draft affidavit written in her handwriting, claiming I had emotional outbursts and threatened to isolate Lucas from professional help. It was a lie, every word, but it was being prepared for something. Maybe a future trial, maybe a court hearing she expected to win before I ever saw it coming. At the bottom of the drawer I found something else, a burner phone. I turned it on. No passcode. There were only 2 numbers saved. One was Miles. The other? It was labeled A.H. Amanda Hargrove. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I took a picture of the screen. If my Amanda and his Amanda were in contact, I wasn't just fighting a custody battle. I was fighting a network. The network was real. I spent the entire night drawing lines between names, emails, documents, and burner phones. Amanda, Dr. Hargrove, Amanda Hargrove, Hallowbridge Behavioral Ventures, the anonymous signal message. At the center of it all, Lucas, just a boy, manipulated, coached, used, his emotions recorded, molded, and sold. By sunrise, I had a full map on the whiteboard. Arrows, photos, notes, question marks, like a detective cracking a case. Only this wasn't a movie, this was my life, and the villain was sleeping under the same roof as me. Darren moved fast. By 9:15 a.m., the formal complaint to the State Medical Board had been submitted. We alleged unethical manipulation of a minor during therapy, undisclosed third-party data monetization, violation of HIPAA by allowing unapproved parties access to psychological records, conflict of interest through corporate ties. Attached were Amanda's email admitting she coached Lucas Burner phone logs with Amanda Hargrove's name, proof of Hallowbridge's ownership stake in Hargrove's clinic. The narrative alignment strategy described in emails. At 10:03 a.m., I got a call from Dr. Lane, the independent psychiatrist who evaluated Lucas. "I've just been contacted by someone claiming to represent a peer ethics committee," she said. "They asked if I had noticed any suggestive influence on Lucas." I froze. "Did you confirm anything?" I asked for their credentials. They hung up. We had triggered something, not just a medical investigation, a response mechanism. "They know," I told Darren. "They know we filed." "Good," he replied. "Let them sweat." But then it got worse. At 11:45 a.m., Amanda called me, panicked. "Nathan, did you say something to Lucas's school?" "No. Why?" "They suspended counseling sessions. Mrs. Alvarez says the school district's legal team is reviewing whether Lucas should remain under Dr. Hargrove's care." I could hear the fear in her voice, but I also heard rage. Amanda wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing control. "They're overreacting," she continued. "Lucas is thriving. He trusts Dr. Hargrove. This is going to confuse him." I wanted to scream, "He trusted you," but I stayed calm. "We'll figure it out," I said, masking the fire in my chest. Amanda hung up. That evening, a letter arrived by courier. A cease and desist, signed by a law firm representing Hargrove's clinic. It claimed I was disseminating defamatory statements and compromising confidential therapeutic processes. Darren laughed when he read it. "It's a scare tactic, typical corporate crap. We're recountering with our own notice tomorrow. And we're re-adding Amanda Hargrove's name to the list." But the most unexpected thing came next. That night, after Lucas was asleep, I went to take out the trash. When I stepped outside, I saw a car idling down the street. Black sedan, tinted windows. It had been there for over 10 minutes. When I walked toward it, it slowly pulled away. I wasn't paranoid. They were watching. I went back inside, locked every door, and checked the cameras. Nothing. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew. This wasn't just about a custody case anymore. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't even about psychological abuse. This was exposure. And someone, or someones, were terrified of what I might uncover next. Amanda was unraveling. That night, she barely touched her dinner. She paced the hallway like a tiger in a cage. Her phone never left her hand. She kept glancing toward Lucas's room, toward me, toward the window, as if expecting the whole house to collapse. Lucas asked if Mom was okay. I said she was tired, but I knew better. She wasn't tired. She was losing control. And predators panic when the prey stops playing victim. The next morning, Darren showed up at my house with a thick envelope. He handed it to me like a sword. Inside was a full emergency custody motion. Grounds: psychological endangerment, manipulation of therapeutic records, signing documents under false pretenses, collusion with external parties for data exploitation. Also inside was the gold, a statement from a whistleblower. A former assistant of Dr. Hargrove had submitted a sealed affidavit to Darren's firm. She claimed she had been told to type session summaries based on pre-written scripts rather than real therapist notes. She even attached email printouts from Hargrove asking for alignment language, reinforcement phrases, and emotional escalation markers. It was the smoking gun, and it was admissible. We scheduled the hearing. A judge signed off within 24 hours. It would take place in 3 days. I didn't tell Amanda. I didn't need to. Because that night, she confronted me. I was in the kitchen pouring water when she stepped in, holding something in her hand. It was the burner phone, the one I had planted back in her drawer. I let her find it. "You went through my things," she said. Her voice shook, not with fear, but rage. "You're spying on me." I set the glass down. "You're spying on our son." That broke something in her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "I know about Hallowbridge. I know about Amanda Hargrove. I know about the data contracts. I know Lucas's therapy sessions were staged. And I know what you've been preparing in that drawer." Her skin paled. "You have no idea what you're doing?" "No," I said. "I didn't. But now I do." She stepped forward, almost desperate. "Nathan, it's not what you think. It was supposed to help him and to help us. You were never involved. You never understood how fragile he is. You thought love was enough. It's not." "You're right," I said, voice calm. "Love isn't enough." I reached into the drawer next to me and handed her a copy of the emergency hearing notice. Her hands trembled as she read. "You filed for custody?" I nodded. "You're tearing this family apart." "No," I said softly, "you already did." She stormed out of the kitchen. I heard the front door slam. Later that night, Lucas came to me, rubbing his eyes. "Mommy's crying. Did she do something bad?" I knelt beside him, heart in my throat. "I think Mommy made some mistakes, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. And it doesn't mean I'll stop fighting for what's right." He looked down. "Will we still be a family?" I hugged him tightly. "We'll always be a family. Just maybe a different shape." That night, Amanda didn't come home. But I knew she wasn't gone. She was preparing. And in 3 days, we'd both have to face the truth. In court, under oath, in front of people who didn't care about history or emotion or tears. Only facts. And the facts were stacked in my favor. Unless Amanda had one final card left to play. 3 days passed like a thunderstorm looming on the horizon. Low rumbles of tension, invisible lightning under the surface. And then the day came. The courtroom was small, windowless, fluorescent lit, not like the dramatic ones from TV shows. But the energy inside, suffocating. Amanda sat across the aisle, perfect makeup, tailored suit, a calm face masking the volcanic tension I knew simmered beneath. Her attorney, some suit from a firm that specialized in reputational defense, leaned in, whispered strategies in her ear. Darren sat beside me, calm, focused, deadly. The judge entered, a stern woman in her 50s, sharp eyes scanning the room like radar. "All rise." And so it began. Darren wasted no time. He stood, voice steady, and walked the court through the timeline, Amanda's email admitting to nudging Lucas before therapy. The burner phone linked to Amanda Hargrove, the Hallowbridge connection, the shell company, the whistleblower affidavit detailing scripted therapy sessions. He paused at every major point, letting each revelation settle like a nail in a coffin. Then he submitted a sealed file directly to the judge. "Your Honor, this includes redacted communications between Dr. Hargrove and an investor, indicating a directive to extract emotional content from minors under care, including Lucas." The judge opened the envelope, reviewed it slowly. Silence. Then came Amanda's lawyer. He stood, smiled, and began weaving a story. That I was controlling, manipulative, that I had withheld affection, denied therapy to Lucas, and now sought revenge disguised as justice. That Amanda was the only parent proactively seeking help for her child. That the data shared with research firms was anonymized. That the consent forms were clear. That no one, absolutely no one, had been harmed. He gestured toward Amanda. She is a mother acting in good faith, perhaps overly ambitious, perhaps misled by medical professionals, but never malicious. And then, the twist. The courtroom doors opened. A woman walked in, mid-30s, nervous, holding a manila folder. Darren turned and nodded. "Permission to call a new witness, Your Honor." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Who is this?" Darren replied, "Layla Grover, former assistant to Dr. Miles Hargrove." Murmurs filled the courtroom. Layla took the stand, was sworn in, and Darren questioned her gently. "Ms. Grover, can you describe your role at Hargrove's clinic?" "I was his admin assistant for almost 2 years. Did you ever see documentation practices that concerned you?" "Yes, most session summaries weren't written by Dr. Hargrove. They were drafted from templates, often before the child even arrived." "What about Lucas?" She hesitated. "Lucas's file was tagged internally as a Tier A subject. That meant his case was prioritized for rich emotional narrative extraction." The judge leaned forward. "What does that mean?" Layla's voice cracked. "They were coaching the boy to express certain emotions, distress, fear, sadness, because the data was worth more if it was emotionally layered." A gasp broke from somewhere behind me. Amanda's hands were white-knuckled on the table. Darren asked one final question. "Who signed off on that policy?" Layla looked straight at Amanda. She did. The courtroom fell dead silent. Even Amanda's attorney looked stunned. The judge sat back, eyes narrowing. After a moment she spoke. "This court finds sufficient cause to proceed with emergency custody reassignment. Mr. Cole, you are awarded full temporary custody of Lucas, pending further investigation into therapeutic misconduct and data privacy violations." Bang of the gavel. It was done. Amanda collapsed into her chair. But it wasn't over. Because outside the courtroom, the 2 men waited, badges out, federal investigators, and they were there for her. Amanda was arrested quietly. There were no handcuffs flashed for cameras, no dramatic shouting or resisting, just a quiet exchange in the hallway outside the courtroom. 2 agents in plain suits, a whisper of rights, a nod from Amanda, and then she walked away. No glare, no last insult, only a final glance back. Not with hatred, but something closer to resignation. Lucas was with my sister that afternoon. When I picked him up, he stared up at me, as if sensing something had shifted in the universe. "Are we okay now, Dad?" I knelt down and hugged him. "We're going to be." The days that followed were surreal. The media caught on quickly. Not because of Amanda, but because Hargrove S Clinic had contracts with 3 other behavioral investment firms across state lines. It became a national scandal, child therapy used as a data mine. Amanda was implicated as a willing co-conspirator. She faced multiple charges: wire fraud, medical misrepresentation, violation of therapeutic ethics, conspiracy to exploit minors for corporate gain. And yet, I didn't feel victorious, I felt empty. Even now, I look back at photos of us from years ago, smiling vacations, baby showers, Lucas's first Halloween, and I wonder, when did she break? When did Amanda, the woman I once knew, once loved, become capable of this? And could I have stopped it? The court ordered Lucas into trauma-sensitive counseling with a state-appointed psychologist, a gentleman named Dr. Mendel. No cameras, no data capture, no emotional scripting, just listening. And that's when I saw something extraordinary. Lucas began to heal. It wasn't dramatic, there were no overnight changes, but little by little. He slept through the night. He stopped asking if he said the right things. He laughed louder. He started drawing again, not dark, brooding sketches, but bright, chaotic colors. And one night, a few weeks later, he said something I'll never forget. "Dad, when I used to talk to Dr. Hargrove, I felt like I had to be someone else." I swallowed hard. "Why, buddy?" Because if I wasn't scared, no one listened. That broke me. But it also freed me, because for the first time I understood, Lucas had been performing pain to earn love. And now, finally, he didn't have to. Amanda took a plea deal, 5 years, federal time, with no contact allowed until Lucas turned 16. She didn't fight it. No appeals, no interviews, just silence. And maybe that's justice. Not because she suffered, but because she's finally out of his story. One evening, months later, Lucas and I were at the park. He climbed to the top of the slide, looked down at me and shouted, "Dad, I'm not scared anymore." I smiled so hard I thought my face would crack. Neither am I.